Hey there, Hunters. How's it going? It's been a while, but here we are, back with the latest season of Torchlight Infinite, Overworld something or other. I am playing the new Bing character, Bing 2. He is spellburst focused. There's a bunch of different ways you can play this, pretty much any spell, but I have chosen to use Shackles of Malice. This is unfortunately one of those builds that really only works if you have OP pets that make it easy to get extra curse, and then a whole bunch of erosion damage, and then spellburst. But this is where I'm at, day 3, probably less than 100 FE invested, but we sit right around 200, 250 million-ish DPS without using your ult, but then when you hit the ult, you spike over to about 400 million. It's a pretty interesting hero trait. I've got it to ramp pretty quickly now, but this is a pure erosion-based build with deterioration. I know a lot of people are probably saying, an erosion build, not on Thea 3? What are you doing? But I like playing new characters, and Spellburst is pretty cool. So this is just T7, of course. I'm working on farming. I could probably do T8 pretty smoothly, but I'm working on a few more upgrades. We'll skip the league mechanic for now, but you basically just run through the map, right click, your spell goes off 7 times, and everything dies. Everything you curse also explodes, and for each curse on the enemy, you deal about 25% more damage. I'm currently running 2 curses, I'm going to go for 3. But you can see Shackles plays almost like a beam skill with the chains, but then just the explosions and all of the overlaps makes for an insane amount of damage. And you press your ult, your skill goes off 14 times, and everything dies. You could do a 7-2 Guardian or something just for the fun of it, just so you can see what the damage is like. So, nothing crazy, but it's respectable. And there's a long way I can go still. So let's look at passives first. We are doing a pretty simple Knowledge and Magister, as you must do for any Spellburst build. Then Shadow Master, because we are primarily erosion damage. This is the Prism we're using. About as basic as you can get, 24% additional spell damage. And then Lich for everybody's favorite off the beaten track. This lets you do 3 50% auras, cast speed, CDR, etc., etc. And then my slates are pretty basic right now. It's basically just capping my deterioration chance and getting a couple other minor utility points. So my resistances are pretty good, and my energy shield is pretty low, but we have pretty good damage that tend to kill things before they get to us. So Shackles of Malice is a skill that relies pretty heavily on curses and curse on hit, 2 things which are pretty scarce early on. So Illusory Ocean Silk works pretty great. Gives about a 1-second cooldown to trigger corruption, and then that of course scales with cooldown reduction, so this is probably closer to 0.5 or 0.75. This is just a basic damage ring. Focus blessings are good damage. We're a deterioration build, so this is a huge chunk of damage. And then the rest of my gear is pretty much resistances, stats, energy shield, and deterioration chance. This is all T2 gear so far. But overall, it performs pretty well. So Shackles of Malice, this support is pretty great because it no longer removes the curse, which means you can just spam your skills. And then it also basically lets the ability shotgun and hit twice. So that's pretty massive. You stack up so much more deterioration this way. And this is relatively cheap, but definitely worth getting. Psychic Burst is just insane now because you get extra cast speed and then quick decision. So we're scaling cast speed into spell burst with Magister using play safe. So the more cast speed we get, both increased and additional, makes our spell bursts charge even faster. Then Secret Origin Unleash, really great damage, especially when you're focus stacking, movement, defense. I'm actually using offense and defense for a reason. I'll show that in a second. And then my two curses. So this one I'm using Activation Medium Spell Burst, and from what I can tell, the range on this is pretty much on like the entire screen. So I will right click, activate Spell Burst, it triggers a curse, and then everything works great. So Corrosion Focus, just for damage and utility, then damage, damage, damage. You can switch these out for uh, Energy Fortress or something you feel like, but damage is damage. Damage is good. Um, Bing 2 has some pretty crazy traits. So default, you get one spell burst, and then there's two mechanics. There's your grenade, and then there's your ult. Your grenade goes off automatically. Basically, whenever you use skills, it builds up energy. And then once you hit 100, you can press F to trigger your ult, and it's pretty insane. It just gives you double the amount of spell bursts, or this one, yeah, doubles the amount of spell bursts, and it triggers like them all at once. So I have 7, which gets doubled to 14, and then boom, it just casts 14 spells at once. That's pretty freaking nuts. So this one gives you energy when you're consuming spell burst. This one just makes you run faster when you move your ult. You can switch this for less damage, but whatever. Um, this one is interesting because like it hits you, and there could be some interesting ways to leverage that. I haven't done too much testing yet, but this one basically just makes it so your grenade drops area on the ground, you stay in it, you get damage buffs, and even just running around, the buffs stay stacked, so that's pretty powerful. This one is pretty interesting. So there's a lot of different ways you could play this. So it's like if you want to be ult maxing, maybe you take this. Uh, this one basically makes your ults charge faster. So for each spell burst, you're increasing the amount of essence restoration from this. So basically, every time your grenade goes off, once you get enough spell burst, I think by default it takes 4 grenades to charge, but once you get this one, it only takes 3 grenades to charge, which is pretty great. Your ult goes off a lot more often. You can have it automatically go off, but usually it's like my damage is pretty solid. I don't need it to just go off while I'm clearing. I just generally click it on bosses and delete them. So I opt for this. Then so I don't know. Like, if you're clearing a lot, this helps it charge quick, but this also just makes it go off faster or more often. So I just like this, the Flash of Brilliance. And then here, there's a couple different options. So this one, if you have both a defensive and offensive skill affecting you, you'll get an extra spell burst, so that's big damage. And that's up basically all the time. And then these other two are kind of more contingent on your ult. So this one, um, when you use your ult, it summons extra robots, and you get like 3 more casts, give or take. Or so it just makes your ult do a lot more damage. And then this one makes your spell burst charge faster when you use your ult. So these are all relatively strong, but this is the only one that I don't have to like press my ult button to get a benefit for. And I'm a big fan of consistent power. So like I said, as long as I have both Frost Shield and Secret Origin Unleash up, I will have 7 spell bursts. So you see, like for about half a second there, it drops down to 6, but that's not an issue at all. Overall, really fun build. You can play it a bunch of different ways. Pretty much any spell. People use Chain Lightning, Fire Burst, Fireball. Fire does have a lot of pretty cool interactions, and I think it's probably the easiest damage type to scale. I'm just kind of a hipster and I like erosion, and I had those good pets, so I was like, what the heck, I'll do it this way. But if you wanted to play Bing 2 and you didn't have the same pets I do, I'd probably recommend going either Fireball or Fireburst. It's very fun. At no point have I ever felt weak in this character. It did take 2 tries to kill the Traveler, but that's just because my health was really low. Not really a damage issue. Um, Overall, fun season. There's quite a few builds I think I want to play. Might even make another Bing 2 character. But so far, I'm just still grinding and pushing. I might take this guy a little bit farther, but I want to save up some money for a second build before I start re-rolling. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more build videos. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop them down below, and I'll do my best to answer. So thanks, and see everybody next time.